Hello and welcome to Direct Stars. Welcome to our biology class. So today we're going to be talking about the cell structure. Have you heard about the cell before? Okay, so today we're going to be learning more about the cell. Talking about the cell structure, let's our objectives for today's lessons are firstly at the end of the lesson today, you should be able to define the cell. You should be able to understand the cell theory. You should be able to understand the basics of prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. And also, you should be able to understand the structure and functions of the basic components of prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Okay, so let's go further. What is the cell? The cell is defined as the smallest basic unit of life that is responsible for all life processes. That is basically all living things are made up of cells. Okay? In other words, the cell is the structural and the functional unit of life. Okay, this is going to lead us to the five cell theories. Have you heard about the five cell theories before? Okay, good. I'm going to be telling you about them in this class. So we have five cell theories. And the first states that the cell is the structural and the functional unit of life. Secondly, all living things are made up of cells. All cells comes from previously existing cells, and there is no life apart from the life of cells. And finally, that all living things are either unicellular or multicellular. Okay, this was the former five cell theories, but there is a more modern one that has been postulated, and we are still going to be talking about that in this class today. Okay, so now let's look at how the cell was discovered. Who discovered the cell? Okay, so we have that Robert Hooke, an English scientist. He invented the microscope in which he discovered the cell in the year 1665. Have you heard about Robert Hooke before? Okay, he's also called the father of cells. I think I have a picture of him here. So whenever you hear the name Robert Hooke, you should know who they're trying to like talk about or who they're referring to. So here is the English scientist, and his name is Robert Hooke. He was the one that wrote the book called The Micrographia, where he tried to like tell us more things about the cell. He actually discovered the cells in the cork of a tree where he called them the cells because they looked like tiny compartments of houses and something like that. Okay, so now let's go further to what the cell structure is all about. So when we talk about the cell, we have two main types of cells. We have the prokaryotic cells and we have the eukaryotic cells. Okay, when I say prokaryotic, I mean this actually. I mean this. So when I talk about prokaryotic, it's spelled prokaryotic. Okay, so examples of organisms that exhibit this kind of cells, we have the bacteria, we have the archaea. Okay, so why are they called prokaryotic? They basically have no nucleus. They have no nucleus in their cells and they have just a few scattered organelles in the cells. Okay, and then the second type of cell we have is the eukaryotic cells. It is spelled eukaryotic. Okay, so when you talk about the eukaryotic cells, this includes all the plants and animals. Okay, plant cells, animal cells are called eukaryotic cells. Why? They have a nucleus and uh they have more organelles than you will find in a prokaryotic cells. Okay, all right. So haven't heard about that. This is what uh a eukaryotic cell looks like. You can see it's more definite, it's more filled up with more organelles. You can see the nucleus here is distinct and okay, yeah. Okay, so now let's look further at the structure of the cell. When we talk about the cell, there are certain structures that actually makes up the cell. Okay, so now let's talk about those structures. Firstly, we have the cell membrane. Take a look at this picture here. This is like the picture of a cell. So there is this tiny membrane that kind of covers the cell. It prevents the cell organelles and fluids and liquids from leaking out into the surroundings. So this tiny membrane is what we call the cell membrane. It allows the diffusion of substances in and out of the cell. It allows for the exchange of materials between the cell and its environment. Okay, so next we have the cell wall. The cell wall basically gives the cell its rigidity, shape, and structure. Okay, as you can see, it's right here that the cell wall actually made this cell to have a shape, a definite shape. Okay, good. So next, another structure of the cell we should look about is the cytoplasm. Okay, when you talk about the cytoplasm, what do we mean? This is like the liquid component or the liquid part of the cell. The cell itself is filled up with cytoplasm. It's like a fluid that allows different things to go on in the cell. Okay, so if you take a look at this diagram here, you're going to see the cytoplasm is just like a liquid component that filled up the whole cell. Okay, so next we have the nucleus. Okay, so the nucleus generally houses all the genetic materials of the cell, the DNA, the chromosomes. That is where you find them. Okay, I hope you learned a lot in our lessons for today. Please do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.